Okay, thank you. Good evening. A little bit late, but I appreciate everyone's patience. I will call to order the September 23rd meeting of the North Andover Select Board. If everyone could stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll be, before I call for public comment, I do want to make sure that everyone knows, under new business item B, the specialized building code, there will be no vote taken tonight on that matter. It's just an informative discussion, just judging by the audience, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. And I'll open up for public comment at this time. Per Select Board policy, public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between citizens and the Select Board. It is a citizen's opportunity to express his or her opinion on issues of town business. The board may respond to a public comment by taking it under consideration when deliberating on an agenda item or referring the item to the administration for appropriate action or response. A public comment shall be for a period of up to 15 minutes, with speakers being allowed 3 minutes to present their material. Is anyone here for public comment? If you just, step up, state your name and address for the record, and
Thank you. Tom Zarico, 391 Sutton Street. Many of you know me. I'm a developer and home builder here in town for the last 35 years. I've built over 200 homes in town. I'm here to speak against the specialized energy code adoption. I realize I only have a few minutes. I've looked over the presentation that's coming up, and I think I don't get to comment on it afterwards, so these are sort of preempting that a little bit. But first of all, starting out, suggesting that adopting the energy code is going to make electrification easier in some form. I don't understand how that's possible. I've never seen a regulatory increase that made anybody's life really easier. In terms of the energy use here in town, the presentation states that there's 30% of the energy use is residential use. I mean, that is older buildings. Generally, the older the building, the more waste of energy and the more use of energy. More recent buildings subject to the stretch code, which we're compelled to comply with today, already puts us at a very high standard of energy conservation. It's not at all clear that the operating and maintenance costs would be lower in residential construction. There's multiple studies that suggest otherwise, some of them from the Home Builders Association. I usually have a little more passion with this, but I want to cover this in 3 minutes, so I'm going to save the passion for town meeting, I guess. Again, the presentation goes on to suggest that the building code regulations are the way to modify and accelerate the change of energy use. It's one of many ways, and I think it's one of the most inefficient ways of doing it, and I'll explain why in a moment. Again, referring to the presentation, comments that we're building political infrastructure. Political infrastructure doesn't generate electricity, doesn't transmit electricity. Electrical infrastructure transmits and generates electricity. We don't have the capacity, and there's no plan for infrastructure to support what we're suggesting here in this community or any community in the state. The stretch code that we're dealing with now in new construction, as well as some larger additions, is really very strict and costly.
if this could be your last couple, just wrap up quickly.
Sure. The stretch code has added $30,000 or $35,000 to the cost of every new home in town. It flies in the face of affordable housing. If every home we built for the next 26 years, heading towards the 2050 target of 20% of our housing stock or our building stock being energy independent, if every home we built between now and then used no energy, it would affect our energy use in this town by less than 1%. It's insignificant. It doesn't amount to anything. It wouldn't even move the needle. The energy use that we have is what we have, and it's all from older existing structures. There's other things, too, that very quickly that I don't think anybody's thinking about. One component of this is solar panels on new construction roofs. I don't know if anybody's ever thought about it, but I put a lot of money into 30 and 35-year warranty shingles. The minute the solar panels go on that roof, your warranty is voided. Doesn't exist anymore. So throw it out the window. If anybody is familiar with our electrical service and has an outage in the last couple of years, and either wants a generator or has a generator, without fossil fuels, the generator doesn't work. So, the generator doesn't run on electricity, it creates electricity. Again, there's a lot of issues. The law of unintended consequences applies here. It doesn't just apply to new homes, it applies to larger additions. And I think it's something that we should really walk away from.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else up for public comment? Sure. Just your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Ted Kelly. I live at 214 Sutton Hill Road. I've been a resident for 27 years. Did my own construction business for 10 years and did consulting for the last 4. This is bad policy. Nobody can predict the cost of electricity going to the future. Whose electric bill didn't go up this last year? Everybody's, right? Nobody can predict the cost of electricity. So these models that say this is going to be a cost saving over time are flawed. This adds about at least 20% to the cost of new construction. So to put the burden onto the builder and whoever financing the construction, ultimately the homeowner, it's basically just shifting that cost over to them. One of my customers is a developer, and they just went through this in Salem, where they did a 250-unit apartment building complex. Getting the heating systems to work well in the winter took them a full winter cycle to fine-tune it so it actually worked. Some of those people were getting $900 electric bills for an 850 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. And, it's like, okay, everyone needs to make sure that their thermostat is finely tuned, because if you leave it even at 70, on a continual basis, the energy costs go through the roof. So I just think that, we're making mistakes when we try to, mandate all electric everything. And that, we need to have some flexibility to use other alternative sources of energy. And this kind of sets us on a pathway that if we mandate this, it starts to go everywhere. And so, you want to go put a gas stove in your house. Oh, we can't do that anymore. It's got to be electric. So, we just start, getting on these paths that we can't really walk away from once we start mandating these policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment tonight? Please, yeah.
Hi, my name is Ann Gleason. I live at 28 Brad Street Road in North Andover for
Welcome.
the past 31 years. I think this is the time for me to comment on the proposal for the monument at Patriots Memorial.
You can comment on anything you wish, yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little education. The park was deeded to the town after the Great War as a dedicated site for the memorial, and in honor of the men and women of North Andover, who during the 275 years of existence have rendered the state or nation patriotic service of either a civic or military nature. So I want people to understand that the town, DPW, really doesn't take care of the park. The park is really being cared for by the Friends of the Memorial Park. So neighbors, Mrs. Slade, who's almost 90 years old, Leslie Frazier, yours truly. We advertise twice a year for help, for volunteer help. There we are with Garden Club volunteers with our pitchforks, shovels, and wheelbarrows trying to take care of these beautiful plantings that the Olmsted brothers designed for the original park. We don't change anything in the original park schematic. In fact, if plants don't thrive, we try to plant them again, because that was the original plant. So it was designed as a place of peace and reflection. And my father, who survived World War II combat and prisoner of war camp, in his elderly years loved this park. And I take care of it today in honor of him. So I've never really seen a big volunteer effort from the veterans, and I would love for that to happen. So if this monument
gets placed, I hope that the select board will ask the veterans themselves to help us take care of the park. The DPW apparently can mow the grass, but we take care of the plants and fertilize. We take bittersweet out of the plants. And I feel right at this stage of my life, I feel like we're doing it by ourselves. So another monument hopefully would be respectful and peaceful, trying to emote peace rather than anger. So I don't know what the end result will be. I hear that it takes a while for the monument to be approved, so I'm hoping that people will put their opinions set forth, and it will be respectful and peaceful, whatever it does. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, do we have anyone else for public comment tonight? Any other talks? Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is the licensing commission. So I'll entertain a motion on licensing.
Motion to move into licensing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Over to you, Laura.
Tonight, we're going to start with a public hearing for the application for flammable liquids at 25 Commerce Way. So I believe Alex, is it Alex? That's it. You're here for that?
I'll move the select board acting as licensed commissioners. We
Oh,
taking-
yeah, we need to go into it, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll take a motion.
I'll move the select board as acting as licensed commissioners, open the public hearing to hear comments on the application from ICBP Holdings 26 LLC to store flammable liquids at 25 Commerce Way.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're in our public hearing, and I'll turn it over to you, Alex, to let us know what you're applying for.
Actually, my name is Matt Castine.
Oh, I'm
Alex
sorry.
couldn't make it tonight.
I'm
It's
sorry,
okay.
I was looking.
It's
I'm
all right.
sorry, I appreciate it.
I appreciate your patience. This
My
is my first meeting, and I
yeah,
found out
I'm
at
sorry, I
3:30
made
that
the
I'd
full
be doing this, so. Okay, we are trying to apply for a license that will allow us to keep more flammable liquids at our site, which is 6K at 25 Commerce Way. And basically, we're looking to expand. We're coming up with a lot of good stuff. We work in metal powder manufacturing and batteries and EV work. And we would like to expand. To do that, we'll need to have more chemicals in-house. And so that's basically it. We're asking for 1,500 more gallons of flammable liquid.
Is there any public comment for the public hearing? No? Then I'll open it up to the board if there's any questions.
It must require a permit from the fire department, I would imagine.
Yes, it does. We are fully permitted, and we actually work very closely with the fire department.
How much do you have on site now? Like, how much of an increase is this over what you are?
For on-site right now, for flammable liquids, we have, I believe it's around the same amount. I believe it's only 1,200 gallons, if I'm correct with these numbers.
So this will be a doubling of it?
Almost a double,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And do you have to put any other safety precautions in place because of the increase in storage?
No, we follow all of our basic safety tenets. You know, we have special storage facilities that we put things in, whether it be dry rooms with no humidity or flammable cabinets. We have special firefighting apparatus, non-water firefighting apparatus for areas where certain chemicals and/or materials are stored. So if it's found that we do need to do more to be safe, we'll definitely do it, or Alex will be mad at me. So.
And we do have recommendations from fire and police that, with
great.
no
issues.
no issues.
And this will be stored in the building or in a tank outside the building?
I believe this is in the building.
In the
yes,
building, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You guys are the only business in your building, right? You don't share
No,
space?
There are other businesses in the building. I believe part of the request, we actually gave also all of the flammable liquids for all of the other tenants in that building, just so everybody had a grand
Full-
picture of
yeah,
what
yeah,
was
full
going on.
picture of what's
Yeah.
happening. Perfect.
And your neighbors get notified that you're increasing your,
Oh, yeah, yes.
And they were, must have been notified about this.
And there's,
Yeah,
the abutters were notified as
It
well.
will,
but-
it will go through the landlord as well. The landlord, we have to have intense discussions with them before we can even move forward, so.
Generally, if fire's good, I'm good, but
any other questions, comments?
I think
All right, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll move on to the vote for the application.
I would move
Motion?
approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Great. Thank you very
so
much.
much for coming, yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, we will move on to item C, which is an application from Tara Khan for Khan's Ravioli 2 Inc., doing business as Supreme House of Pizza for common vic license. Is Tarek here? Does the board want to move forward, or do we want to wait until they can come to our meeting?
I feel like I have some questions of the applicant, so I think I'd probably rather table.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah.
I think there's a few things that aren't entirely clear, so
Okay, then we'll.
I move to table.
Okay. Do I
I'll
need a
second.
second? Yeah, motion and
I
a
don't
second.
I'll second the tabling.
All right, all those in favor to table that?
Aye.
All right,
Maybe continue is the appropriate
and
phrase.
then I will, so that'll move to our October meeting, and I will take a motion to close licensing.
So moved.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, agenda item A, the North Andover VFW Post 2104, request for a monument at Patriots Memorial Park. Is someone here representing the VFW? Seats, stand, whichever you prefer. Yeah.
Hey, good evening. Jeff Clark. I live at 1275 Salem Street. So I'm the commander of the VFW. I've been here a few times now, so nice seeing you again. We are here to formally request permission use of the east corner of Patriots Memorial Park to put a 20th century conflicts and global war and terror monument in. The reason why that title's really long is we don't have any memorials since Vietnam in this town. So this will cover the 8 conflicts, including the first Iraq War, plus Iraq and Afghanistan. The list is in the slideshows that you have. So that is our formal ask. With your yes, we can begin fundraising, procurement, and have a better understanding what this monument is going to look like. If we only get $10,000, that tells us what it's going to look like. If we get 50, well, then it's going to be awesome. So that's what we're looking for now, is just the official yes, so we can begin that process. Additionally, on October 21st, we're meeting with the abutters to answer some of the questions. And also to answer your question too, I wasn't aware that there was a need for support, honestly. I met with Leslie Frazier last week. She expressed that need, so I've committed that, hey, we're gonna help out. I didn't know that was a need. We'll help out. That's our job here. So the park is in name for us, so we'll do what we can to support. Yeah, that is my official ask. I know you have the slide deck, so any questions I'm here for.
Once you're approved to sort of move forward, what will the process be? Who's sitting at the table to figure out what it's gonna
Sure.
look like, I guess, and, make sure everybody's on the same.
So we're thinking internally, just the VFW, especially the members who are veterans
Yep.
of these conflicts. We do have members of North Andover who have been in every single conflict since Vietnam, so we want to honor everybody there. So what it's going to look like basically really comes down to funding. If we, we have the idea, it's in the slide deck, a few slides in of what we'd like it to look like
Yep.
in a perfect world. Of course, some things might have to shift around based on space, but that space, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's the sidewalk goes all the way around it, so we're constrained to that one spot, which is perfect. But the overall look will be the monument. As soon as you walk up, we want it to be an educational piece, something that some kind of placard that says what this is for, so kids in the future can come, my kids, my grandkids someday can come and understand what that corner is for. From there, have a monument or a paver for each of the conflicts stating the dates of when those conflicts happened. After that, we're gonna get some steel from World Trade Center. The fire department said they would help us out with that, and I also have some other resources, so we'll have some steel from 9/11 on some sort of granite base with some inscription on there, depending on the size. If it's 6 inches, might not have a big granite base for that. So we may have to incorporate that into the battlefield cross itself. But the predominant piece of this will be the battlefield cross. And that is a symbol that we all recognize as our symbol of recognition in remembrance of our fallen. So it'll be on a granite base ideally. It'll have boots with an M4 weapon pointed down with the helmet and dog tags, and that's our symbol. Several towns have done the same thing recently. Ipswich just put one by a bridge. I don't know if you've seen that. Merrimack, Haverhill, and a whole bunch of other communities in town. So we're working with Mass Fallen Heroes. They've offered their support. They've done this multiple times, so we kind of give them what we want, and they'll kind of design and give us great vendors that they've worked with in the past, and we can make this place right. And my commitment to you is we're asking for it now so we can unveil on the 25th anniversary of 9/11. So we have 2 years to do it. Should be plenty of time to fundraise and procure. And I'll keep you updated however often you need, quarterly, every 6 months, whatever you want, as to the kind of the process and where we are. And same thing with the abutters as well. We want to make sure the neighbors are happy with what we're doing.
I just have one other question. I know there has been some work happening there. Did you guys already coordinate with them? Like, because there's new trees and stuff?
No, it was perfect
New
timing.
plantings? Yeah.
It was perfect timing. So I met with Leslie, like I said, last week.
It's all good. Okay.
And so we're gonna have to transplant some bushes, and we are discussing locations where those can go, and we'll move wherever the bushes need to go so that we're not losing anything. And then there's a trash barrel. So we have some ideas of where that trash barrel can go, so that it's not right in front of the monument, but other than that, the place is perfect for what we're looking for. And it's, again, simple granite, think of Washington DC, timeless classic.
Appreciate it.
You may have said this. Are you putting the names of all the veterans from town?
No,
No, you're
that
not.
is, for the last 50 years, getting a proper name of veterans will be
You end up leaving.
far too difficult.
You'll miss somebody.
We'll miss somebody out, and we'll have
That
to
would
put them
be-
back in.
Yeah.
We're just
Which is-
gonna, the inscription's gonna say something to all the residents of North Andover for each service. We haven't worked out the fine-tuned words
Of
yet.
course, yeah.
We got some time.
I know. Joe's done a lot of work trying to catch up with.
Yes,
Right.
and that's just for Vietnam. I can't imagine the
Yeah.
last 50
Yeah.
years, so.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
No, I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I think it is.
Agreed.
So with the yes vote, hopefully ideally, would you require some regular updates over the next few years as to where we stand, what we need?
I don't know that we require it
Not
per se, but I mean.
necessarily formal, but
it's-
just-
yeah.
And it gives it more notoriety where you
Yes.
might get some more donations.
Just to help get your word
I want
out,
to be a
right?
part of that.
Love that.
Yeah, we'd certainly like to know once it becomes reality, once you have a firm schedule,
Sure.
right? Because obviously we want to be present for any unveiling and anything else we can do to help support it.
Sure.
I think would be good, but no need to report back to us quarterly.
Awesome,
Just
okay.
spend the time fundraising and whatever we can do to help amplify that message. Is that-
Fantastic.
And it
Yeah,
just
and like I
gives-
said, 25th anniversary of 9/11. So we usually do a ceremony at the firehouse. We're gonna try to bring it to that memorial and unveil there.
Great.
Yeah, you updating us is updating the community, so. in the
Yeah, I
next-
can send letters every once in a while,
Yeah.
as any kind of major changes.
Once they have the final design, they need to come back for your approval.
For the
Okay.
design, that's what
Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
Great,
got it.
good to know. Okay. If there's no other questions,
I'll move that the select board approve the request from the North Andover VFW Post 2104 for a monument of Patriots Memorial Park as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. We're enthusiastic. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually thought it could be the entrance.
Could have been, yeah.
Thank you all for coming.
Good, nor should you.
We get so lonely when we do it.
That was quite a turnout, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
I assume you're on board with that, right? That's, yeah. Yeah,
My father's on one of those ones,
yeah.
but he lived. It's one where they have.
An honor, right?
And every time I go by, I touch it.
Okay.
And my son was in the military. He would shoo the kids off who climbed over trees. He would, I'm not kidding.
All right, moving on to agenda item B, a discussion regarding specialized opt-in building codes. If you gentlemen wouldn't mind introducing yourselves and go ahead with your presentation.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us. My name's Kunal Bhatia. I've been a resident of the town of North Andover for the last 27 years as well. Happy anniversary. And I'm a resident of 101 Colonial.
My name is Dylan Patel. I am the Northeast Regional Coordinator for the Department of Energy Resources at the Green Communities Division.
And so today we wanted to come talk to you about adopting this specialized energy code in order to help make building electrification in the town of North Andover easier. And I was hoping that we would be able to stir a good discussion today. Totally understand we are not voting on this, more looking for your guidance and questions, and I'm so glad that we have such great engagement tonight as well. Buildings, as you may know, in Massachusetts account for our largest source of energy use, and electrification can help our town with multiple issues. The first is improving energy efficiency. The second is lowering operating and maintenance costs. And the third is improving air quality and comfort. You may be wondering, what are these, electrification projects that this might entail? We're talking about HVAC systems like, replacing air conditioners and oil and natural gas heating systems, which our town and the town of Lawrence, or city of Lawrence, I believe, has seen the effects of what aging natural gas infrastructure can do and the harm it can cause. We're talking about things like solar to help generate power, on-site storage, battery or otherwise, of electricity, as well as electric cooking appliances. So building codes are one of the most powerful ways that we can change regulations to modify and accelerate this change. And this change needs to happen at the local level in Massachusetts, unlike states like California, where change is done at the state level and pushed down to everyone else. Here in Massachusetts, more decentralized, each town needs to adopt this code individually. So I first came to know about this energy code and some of the benefits that it can have for towns like ours through this group called Zero Carbon MA. They're a nonprofit advocacy group trying to make it easier for towns and municipalities to get to zero carbon emissions. So just a quick background on the current energy code that we were talking about earlier. So Massachusetts has an updated base energy code. That was updated in '23, and the updated stretch energy code is already adopted by the town of North Andover. So this opt-in specialized code that we're about to break down is what's being considered, should our town adopt this or not. Okay, so you might be wondering, okay, what does this code actually entail? So the first thing it does is it encourages all electric buildings. The second is that it applies to new construction only. It does offer multiple pathways. So if you did want to use mixed fuels, propane, natural gas, oil, there are still pathways that you can build with those fuels. And then the fourth is by adopting this specialized code, we are afforded opportunities for more state funding, especially for projects like Kittredge with the upcoming elementary school project. Looking and fast forwarding to 2050, new construction that we start today would become about 20% of our building stock by 2050. So we're talking about quite a long time horizon, but it could have quite a lot of impact over that time. So there are three key features that I think a lot of people in the town administration, the building community, architects, builders, et cetera, would want to dig into. But the high level of this is it has provisions for pre-wiring for future electrification. So imagine you want to use fuels in a new construction project, then you must also pre-wire for future electrification. So say it's a home and they want to use oil heating. If, say, a new resident or the resident that buys that home wants to put an electric appliance in for HVAC later on, they'd have, the 240 volt outlets next to where that appliance needs to be. It's much, much harder to do that and much more costly as a retrofit. So this ends up being a major consumer protection. The second one is that if you're going with a mixed fuel building, there are requirements to add solar panels. There are quite liberal exceptions to this. It's not trying to be like overly annoying of a provision. Like imagine you're facing the wrong direction, or you have your roof is shaded, or there's no space to actually put this because there aren't flat or large surface areas that you can put solar towards, or build solar on your roof. So those exceptions are granted. Okay, so we've talked about pre-wiring, solar panels. The third key feature of the energy code is that large and multifamily homes have to exhibit exemplary performance. So we're talking homes that are larger than 4,000 conditioned square feet. They must be all electric, zero energy, and multifamily homes that are larger than 12,000 conditioned square feet must follow a standard called passive home. And I've included links throughout this presentation. I know it's also on the town website, so anywhere you see links to dive in and get more questions that you have answered, you can follow the links attached. Okay, so now that we understand the three basic provisions, I wanted to break it down even further so that we understand all the provisions that this code entails and how it applies to homes, commercial buildings, etc. So we'll start with homes. So imagine you're building an all-electric new home. You have no additional requirements if this code were to be adopted by North Andover. For mixed fuel new homes under 4,000 square feet, again, you have the solar requirement and wiring for future electrification, with the exceptions on solar if you are doing the passive house standard or you have shading or things like that. If you're above 4,000 square feet, then your home needs to have zero energy, so basically you're producing enough solar to offset, which is on the order of 8 kilowatts, roughly, and then, again, wiring for future electrification. Home additions and alterations do not have any additional requirements. So that's key. I know we're talking a lot, Lori mentioned about DAUs, additional units that people are putting next to their homes, does not apply. And it, again, does not apply to historic homes. Okay, moving on to large and multifamily buildings. Again, we're talking 12,000 square feet and over. If you are following the all-electric pathway, then you would follow the passive house standard. And we'll talk a little bit about passive house if you're interested in a few minutes.
Can I ask just a quick question here?
Sure,
Just
please.
You referenced unit size is 12,000 square feet and over. Assume you mean the entire building, not
The
the
entire
individual
building.
units. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So any multifamily structure, regardless of number of units, 12,000 square feet and over is what you're asking about?
Correct.
Got it, okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, great question. Okay, so all electric, follow the passive house standard, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The mixed fuel pathway, if you want to use gas, propane, oil again, there you're, again, following the passive house standard, and you're wiring for future electrification. So hopefully I sound like a broken record on this wiring standard by now. And just to round out things, the code for commercial buildings, if you're following the all-electric pathway, you have no additional requirements. Mixed fuel, any size commercial building, Solar would be required, based on the 3 largest floors of that building, you would put 1.5 watts per square foot of those 3 largest floors. Again, if you follow the passive house standard, you're exempt from solar. If you have shading or other considerations, you're exempt. And then you would also wire for future electrification. Okay, I know that was a lot to ingest, but we covered homes, large multi-family buildings, and commercial. So it does apply to all buildings. 45 towns and municipalities across Massachusetts have already adopted this specialized code, and this represents about 30% of the population of Massachusetts. Our town and towns like Andover are considering adopting this code as well. So it is being done by towns similar to ours. What's the path forward from here look like? Well, today we're here obviously to get your feedback, your questions answered, and from there, the high-level objective is to write a warrant article, and those efforts could be kickstarted with resources that the Mass DOER has put together in the form of their guidance, as well as the 45 other towns who have adopted this code. All of their pre-written warrant articles are online on Zero Carbon's website. Finally, our plan, what we'd like to do today here, we're at the Select Board. We've gone twice before the Sustainability Committee to answer their questions and get their feedback and suggestions. From here on out, we would love to talk to the Finance Board, School Board, Affordable Housing Trust, Planning Board, and then also hold a public info session. So that would be sort of the timeline of this. And then for getting this warrant article in front of the town to vote on, we would be looking at trying to propose this for May 2025 town meeting. And then if this were to be voted on, typically what the recommendation is you have a buffer period so that you're not immediately enforcing this code. It would be about a 6-month buffer period so that people can learn and understand what this code means in terms of buildings, and perhaps we could put it into effect January 26. So again, I'd love to get sort of your questions and a discussion going here, and would love to get your advice before we bring this to other committees across North Andover. I'd love to turn it over to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your thorough presentation. I will open up to questions from the board, if there are any. It's a lot.
Sure, yeah, no, thank you for coming and for your presentation. I know it's a kind of a hot button topic.
No pun.
I guess I can list my concerns for you.
Sure.
I don't think that we have the infrastructure to support this. National Grid can't keep our lights on as it is. We lose power a lot, and it takes them days to get it back up. And we're not unique to the surrounding communities.
And this is a relatively new thing. We didn't lose power for days.
It's the changes in weather and all of that, and they're not prepared to handle it, and therefore, and it's always the same people, just so you know. And I'm one of them.
He lost his last
I lost
night.
power last night, for about 30 seconds, and no idea
The
why.
wind blew.
He's wearing a black shoe and a brown shirt. No,
That has nothing to do with the power, trust me.
just kidding. Teasing.
So I guess
In the dark.
that's one of my biggest concerns, because I don't think this push to electric cars, to electrification of buildings, I don't think we currently have the infrastructure to support it. I think it's very cost prohibitive to builders and homeowners. We heard from some of the local contractors. I work in the industry. It's already expensive to meet the stretch code. The insulation requirements, the roofs have to be solar ready as it is, which increases the size of the roof rafters, increases the closed cell insulation that's required. We're in a housing crisis, and I think that this is putting more restrictions on requirements on builders and homeowners. I think it's a lot to ask, especially where the stretch code's only been implemented for, I think, a year. so far?
The
The
updated.
The updated stretch code.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna ask them to adjust again. So I think it's a lot. And then I guess my question to you is, my two questions is, can you speak to the shingle roof warranty with the solar? Does it, I know that it voids the warranty, but you guys are, so what's your rebuttal to that? But-
I personally, this is the first time I've heard of this warranty concern, but I'd love to dig into it and get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think if you could do that, that would be helpful.
I know, you know, you're mentioning power outages. Do you mind, do you know why these power outages or when you're experiencing them more often?
Bad weather.
We wish we could.
Sure,
Bad
okay.
weather, car accidents hitting the poles.
There's weather.
variety of
Bad
things.
infrastructure
There's
is a lot.
It's old infrastructure and it's weather related.
Okay.
In North Andover, a stiff breeze.
You look
Okay.
at it, We never used to have, we didn't really have that problem. That if it would go out, it would go out maybe, a night or a day. But it's, for some people, it stays out a long time. And then that means all their food gets destroyed. It's not good.
Yep.
So I think that.
Get a handle on that, that would be.
Be helpful.
I was just trying
And
to
then
understand
and-
why, and
and then
it
if
sounds
you
like
have
it's not because there's not enough supply, but it's outages caused by knockdown poles and things like
Actually,
that.
Well-
I don't know that I'm qualified to say that it isn't in moments
Yeah.
of high demand where we
Okay.
have
That's
little
true.
brownouts.
There were
and-
definitely brownouts
Like I just
over-
mentioned last,
With during
The hot
that
July.
June, July period, I wouldn't be surprised that it was.
And the way to remedy that right now is a gas-fired generator. So that's against what you want to be able to do. But I'll tell you, if you're elderly, or you need air conditioning, or you need electricity to run your oxygen, thank you, I was working my way towards that. These are life-threatening issues for some of our people. And maybe some of us at this table in 30, 40 years. No, I'm the only close one. But, and part of it's frustrating because the artificial intelligence is supposedly going to be eating up all of our energy. It's like, I think we should be caring more about people and the people that build their homes. And it's everything. It's appliances, everything. With the stretch code, they had us buying the energy efficient appliances, which is not fair to people who just don't have that kind of money. So I think there's still a ways to go.
In your presentation, you said that new construction will become around 20% of the building stock by 2050. How did that
Sure.
Where'd you get that data from?
That's, I don't have the data point for that, but that is a statewide
Well, that's
projection.
statewide, not
Not
specific
North
to North
Andover.
Andover.
well, my assumption would be that that'd be a goal, right? If the state is going to meet its housing production goals by 2050, it would all have to be new construction. I'm making some assumptions on that based on the state goals, the goals of how many units we need to try and get to. That'd be
Oh,
my.
So yes,
that
we're
is
definitely
a goal statewide.
It's a statewide goal.
Yeah, so we're definitely extrapolating here to North Andover, but I would assume that that number tracks pretty closely for us. Maybe we're on the lower end of that, maybe we're a little bit higher, we won't know. But it's all detailed in this climate report that was linked in the presentation as well, if you're curious to dig into more of how they came up with that number.
So I've seen here that one of the goals is to lower operating costs, right? Presumably making it less expensive for a homeowner to operate their home over time. And I guess my question would be is if that were the case, if it was financially beneficial, wouldn't the market already be dictating that these homes be built in this manner if it were a financial windfall for the operators? Wouldn't there already be a market demand for those that the builders could respond to?
I think there is market demand, but it's more, it's not, necessarily something that I think, our town and towns across America have been educated on. I personally have tried to take on electrification projects, and it's taken me over 3 years, and we haven't even started the first one. I'm considered maybe in the early adopter group of this. So I think if we're waiting on demand to come from people who aren't necessarily tuned into these types of conversations, it's not in builders' interest necessarily to wait for them to be educated on this topic and then demand it.
Well, I guess if someone were interested in participating in that, there's nothing stopping them from building their home this way now, or there's nothing stopping a builder from maybe carving out a niche in the market and say, we're going to be the energy efficient homes, right? There's nothing that stops them from doing that without adopting this code today, correct?
Sure, and that would, again, be able to support people who can afford, to make that call up front. And it would be leaving out a lot of the affordability piece when it applies to large multifamily homes, because there's no really buyer awareness or, collective bargaining that's happening for large multifamily units at that point.
I think that really gets into the point of, especially when it comes to the stretch code and the specialized code and passive house, all things like that, there's an S-curve when it comes to construction costs. And you have these early adopters that are willing to make that price premium just because they can afford it. But as more and more of these houses are produced in either to the specialized code or the passive house standards, we're going to have a lot more learning by doing, a lot more market entrants entering the field. And with the more rapid adoption, we're hoping to see costs come down. And we're seeing that already with passive house to an extent. It's just the fact that if we were to leave this to market forces, that kind of S-curve, that kind of technology adoption would be much slower than what it would be through a townwide vote. So just by having that more expanded adoption, we're hoping to see this will literally become the standard. So, this is going to be the construction standard for the 45 towns already, and hypothetically for North Andover.
Go ahead.
Are you ready?
No, go ahead. You go ahead. I'll follow up.
45 towns have adopted this. How long ago did they adopt it, and has anybody put it into practice yet?
It's effective in 32 towns, municipalities. It's been effective for about 1 year in 4 of them. About 15 became effective in January, and then so the remainder would be 13. The 13 became effective this July.
So when I look at this on paper, I think this seems like a great idea. But when I think about the reality of this for our residents who are, and again, it all comes back to housing crisis, reliability, all of these things, it's really hard. What I want to do is say, let's encourage this. Let's put this information out there and say, if you're able, please build your house this way, right? There's a good, but the making it
Make it a choice.
mandatory, it doesn't feel like we're at a point in time where that makes sense, at least for this community. I think we could all maybe get behind educating people and trying to encourage that sort of thing, but I think, and we're probably not different from many other communities, but for me, when I look at this community and the struggle that people have to find housing, to stay in housing, to, be housed in general, it would be detrimental to us on the whole. So, not opposed to the idea of this, I think, I don't know. So, let's see, what were my other? Really, the big thing was, I think, I could get behind a plan to encourage this sort of thing, but it's not right. I would like to see how it plays out in all of these other communities. We don't want to be I don't want to be an early adopter in this community.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we're here, to really test the water on this conversation. And as Kuno presented on the slides, we do have a lot of TBDs, because I think we're really willing to take the long game on the public outreach process for this, and really I'm personally willing to meet the town where it is in terms of its timeline, whether it's like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whenever. But
Not to say
again,
never, right, but
yeah.
not interested at the moment.
I mean, I think that would be.
But
oh,
your
sorry.
presentation was really compelling and it's interesting.
Oh, that's
and
all cool now.
I
Yeah.
think you do a really nice job, but yeah, you're just not quite making this up.
Yeah, I think it's, again, it's clearly well thought out. I think there's a few points that I'd probably make some suggestions for you on. Is one, when we talk about multifamily, a good chunk of our new construction is going to have to come from multifamily
Yeah.
across the state, right?
That means-
So
yeah.
if you can't sell to developers who are the ones who are going to be operating those buildings, right? So they can recognize cost efficiencies right away. You don't have to worry about a homeowner trying to sell a homeowner on it. They can see that in the way they operate those buildings. I think that's probably a better path for education and to have more effectiveness in terms of the units that are built. I mean, I did note that the break point of 4,000 square feet on single-family homes, I think probably more and more homes are being built large. I don't know if that's intentional to try and discourage larger homes and get them under 4,000 square feet or not, but just something to think about there. And there are a number of homes that are larger than that in new construction for single-family. And I guess my last point is with regards to potential schedule for adoption. I think you can certainly ask any of the gentlemen sitting behind you, 6 months is not enough of a buffer time to adopt. You probably need 3 times that amount of time when someone's planning out a new construction project to really make sure they can understand their costs. So those would be my only comments.
The only thing I'd like to comment on the 4,000 square foot homes is we really don't have a huge number of 4,000 square foot homes. I think people
Certainly
are.
not being built.
Not being built new, correct. Yeah.
And I think that people they seem to want a smaller home on a smaller lot. They don't want a cleared acre and all of that kind of thing.
Far better
It's
than
only
me.
because
Well,
what
I
they
do,
can afford.
right, yeah, their
They would take the
taxes,
4,000
everything,
square
but,
foot home.
so I don't know that that's, and I agree with you, there are some lovely 4,000 square foot homes, and for some people it works out nicely, but I find that the younger generation, they don't want to spend a whole weekend cutting their lawn and doing their garden work. They're too busy having some fun, which is great, good for them, or cleaning their house. So the 4,000 is a little high. But just to kind of give you a little perspective, and I'm probably one of the few people in the room, but there's others. We had an experiment program with one of our old high schools. It was all electric, and it was a disaster. And it got torn down, and then another one built in its place. It was a disaster. It was during the 70s, and it was open concept, and it was all electric, and I'm catching a few smiles in the room where people know what I'm talking about. So oh, you went there too?
Yep.
Yeah, my son was the last class to leave. I was the first class in, and we as students said, this is stupid. Why don't they have any walls? Why do they have electric heat? We knew, the grown-ups didn't know, but I think it was budgetary reasons, frankly, and it was supposed to be the new thing with the open concept. But people remember that. We don't want to be the open concept high school again in the housing industry either. I think, and as I said, AI is taking all the electric power, and that's what they're projecting. So we've really got to come up with a really good plan if that's what's going to be happening. And I think it's kind of a tough time to launch something like this with the rising costs of everything. So you've got a challenge.
By the way, on costs specifically, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'll follow up. My questions are on.
Okay. I know there have been multiple studies presented about costs for this specific type of initiative. Some of them cite 20% cost increases. I just wanted to clarify that study citing 20% was including inflation costs as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so more, studies have been done where they remove the inflation cost and show that it's between 1% and 4% for adopting the specialized code before incentives from the IRA, which are the federal incentives.
Okay, thank you.
So I think as we move forward with this conversation and some of the information that I think we all would want to know is, what's the ROI on that increased cost, right? Like, what are you projecting those savings to be? I think it's really difficult with National Grid. We've all realized that it's hard to work with the utilities, and they have a monopoly, and they just continue to increase their rates. And I don't know if we can ever fight that unless you have municipal power.
Right,
But-
and we literally talked about that at one of the meetings,
meeting.
goal-setting meeting.
My boss has heat pumps, and he uses the heat pumps instead of his oil heat because he lives in Danvers. And
And they have cheap
it's
power
a cheap
because,
rate,
yeah,
right?
SMLP.
But I also have a heat pump, and I'm not going to use it to heat my house, right? I use it for central air, and it's really just a backup system in case Columbia, anything.
Just in
never
case.
again,
Not
just in
that
case.
that'll ever happen.
We'll never need that again. So I think we need to know what those cost savings, or where National Grid is with their rates, because it could become cost prohibitive for people to heat their homes.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And the other thing is these heat pumps don't really work below 30 degrees, right? And that
Some of them do, a lot of them do. Some of them don't, a lot of them do.
you need superheat, right? Or I think
The hyperheat,
Hyperheat,
some,
thank you.
yeah, which again, like, we're getting warmer winters.
We are, except we still get below freezing days in New England, right? So that's another thing that I think we really need to address and we need to talk about. And then, I think, that was it. But I think those are really like concerns of our residents of, what type of heating system are you putting in? Is that gonna work when it's 2 below 0?
Oh, yeah, of course,
know,
I understand that.
And what kind of energy draw is that?
So, to begin with, we are doing a cost study right now. Hopefully, it will be ready by the end of the year, so we can make that part of our public presentation. A lot of it is going to depend on assumptions on electricity costs, and again, your ROI is going to be a lot better if you subscribe to community aggregation versus basic rates. And I think we are seeing a lot more, as I mentioned before, a lot more of the heat pumps starting to mature and work at temperatures well below 0 centigrade, 32 Fahrenheit, while maintaining coefficients of performance at around 2.5. And again, like even if you have an outage, there are a lot of natural gas boiler systems that have like an electronic component to them that won't kick on if there is an electric outage. And in fact, when you're building to these exemplary performance, especially for the passive house, if you do lose power, say in the dead of winter, your temperature decrease over a day is literally at 2 or 3 Fahrenheit. These buildings are built to be like those thermocoolers. They retain heat. They retain heat really well. Yeah. I feel like I didn't get to one of your points that I.
No, I think that National Grid, I think National Grid
right.
is
Yes.
they're
Again.
the wild card. We don't have any control over them, and I think that they need to be brought into the conversation at the state level. And
If there's a way to incentivize
Yeah.
this and make it palatable for the developers and for the, but that's
Yeah.
that's a much bigger discussion.
Oh
than
yeah,
here
of
in North
course. And
Andover.
in terms of like the state oversight, we have the energy sector modernization plans, where National Grid is planning out these long-term investments to improve the grid and improve substation capacity so that greater electrification can be made with these developments. We have the interagency rates working group, which works with the DPU to ensure that there is like a certain amount of equity when it comes to rate making. As you probably saw, Unitil was approved for like a heat pump rate, and I think National Grid is kind of leaning into that and hopefully going to be approved at some point in the next few years. So there are going to be, I guess, incentives from the utility side for electrification. And of course, there's the massive new construction incentive, which is already baked into houses that are built to the stretch code.
It's interesting.
All right.
Well, you've certainly both put a lot of work into it, and it shows.
Yeah, and
I
we
just think
recognize
that-
the work that is going to be needed, of course.
No,
Yeah.
no, and it shows, so that I think it's something that we have to have a measured approach,
Of course.
clearly, a measured approach to see if everything falls into place so that our people save money and are warm and get things to work when they turn them on and so forth and so on. I think it still has a ways to go, but you guys have worked very hard, and we thank you for that. I know your heart's in it.
It was interesting. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Laurie, you had a quick question.
Quick question. Is this going to be a requirement for green communities?
No,
Okay.
Thank you.
and this will never be a
Thank
requirement
you
for green
asking that
communities.
question.
Yes. I mean, like I mentioned, like Kunal had mentioned, there is like a provision for unlocking more funds, but green communities is not going away, and the criteria to remain on the stretch code will not change.
Okay.
Thank you so much, really appreciate the
Thank you.
discussion.
Did you ever see
It was
if anyone
electric.
in the audience wants to ask me?
Well, no, we're out of public comments. We can't. We're not
Not
public
to
hearing.
ask a question for this?
I don't know if we can. We're not in a public hearing, so.
No, they can't ask a question, because
No, we're not in a public hearing, so. we
Can
wouldn't
talk
be
to
able
them
Yeah.
after. Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a healthy discussion in the hallway out
Yeah, I was gonna
afterwards.
mention
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
you're
All
brave men.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item C, we have to take a vote on disbanding the DEI Commission. Dee, I'll turn it over to you. Sure. As we're discussing this, I think we lost a little power here, or it's a little dimmer.
So just,
It is getting darker.
so just to be clear, this is not a vote to disband our DEI efforts in total. This is just a vote to disband the current DEI commission that is a select board commission per the presentation that was given last month. We are continuing. We're hoping that after this vote, it will be a town manager appointed committee, but we are committed to this work. We are not going to stop, but we feel that under a different format, it will be a more successful endeavor.
Okay, thank you very much, Dean. Thank you for all your efforts today. We know this is a passion project of yours as well. So with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll move that the select board disband the DEI commission.
I'll second.
A motion in a couple of seconds. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Looking forward to the next phase. Yep.
Item D, we're up to the appointment of Greg Landry to the Kittredge School Building Committee, replacing former Assistant Superintendent Mealy, I believe. School committee has voted yes? Okay, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Congratulations to Mr. Landry.
He's a good guy.
Great guy. Okay, item E, vote to waive right of first refusal for an affordable unit at 178 Cortlandt Drive.
Standard, right?
It's
I'll move
pretty
it-
straightforward,
I'll move
right? Yeah.
That we waive the right of first refusal, as we typically do.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, to approve the intermunicipal agreement for public health and shared services grant. Thank you for your patience this evening.
It's been entertaining.
Lovely presentation, and I do have to say, I lose my electricity all the time.
You live-
See, I was trying to get you to be able to speak.
Thought about it. Thank you for having us. I'm Brian from the Health Department. This is Annette Garcia from our Shared Services Coordinator, and this is part of the Shared Services grant that we got from the state this past year. This is one of the items that they require. So we could either do an IMA or an MOU, or another acronym somewhere in there. So we took the IMA in the MOU, brought them to town council. She chose the IMA. We revised it. We sent it out to the communities, voted on it, and it's being passed through all the towns now. Board of Health did approve it at the last meeting, and we're here for any questions.
Okay. I'll open it up to any questions anyone has. If not, I have a couple.
No, I think it's great.
I think it's, if I understand the goal of it, right, it's creating efficiencies and being a force multiplier for the region. I'm not sure how we ended up with this set of towns. It depends on what we're sharing services with, whether we go one direction or another, but,
Some
Who
of
wants
our
it?
existing
Question.
coalitions have some funky lines,
okay,
and it's based off population and community type. So,
okay,
Some of the towns we partner with here, we're already members with our regional public health preparedness coalition. So we have a good working relationship with them.
okay. Yeah, speaking of acronyms, Rosemary, there's a lot of acronyms in this agreement. I guess I have a question regarding, I guess, costs, right, for how this is overall managed, right? I think I saw in here that as the host or lead community, we are able to retain 15% of the grant funding, is that correct?
Yep.
To help cover costs of administering the program?
Yep.
Does that seem fair?
Yes.
Is that 15% in your experience adequate? Is it up,
Yes.
low, will it change year to year?
If we get increased funding, obviously the money will go up.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a good chunk of change.
Presumably the work goes up too, right? Is that-
course.
Is that the idea? Is there a scenario where North Andover will be, because I think North Andover must front the costs, right? And then it's reimbursed through grants, or no?
We
Okay,
receive the grant and we use that money to pay for all of the services that we do.
okay. So, all right, so if grants go away, services don't
Correct.
participate, right? Okay. That's all I had.
Does the increased administration work require additional staff, or is it something you absorb internally?
We hire it through the grant.
Okay.
Okay. And those grants are typically multi-year grants, or is it
Yes.
going to be, okay? So you know you can hire someone, you're going to have them for a couple of years, and the grant
Correct.
money will be there for it?
Yep.
Great.
And we've been able to absorb the other administrative HR-related costs within our staff.
Okay.
We've just entered a 3-year grant cycle, so this particular IMA, we wrote it so it coincides with that 3-year grant cycle. So it brings us through fiscal year 27, at which point all of the communities can sit back down, look at the IMA, see how things have been working, if we receive another cycle of this grant funding. So it offers that opportunity to really assess how well we're doing our job, how things are working administratively, how they're working with our advisory board, and offer that opportunity to sit down and kind of finesse things a little bit more.
Yeah, that was, I guess, my biggest, just making sure I understood kind of the mechanics of it, right? Are we staffing up to, offer some of these services and then run the risk of grant money not coming through and then North Andover taxpayers are on for the balance? But it sounds like that's not how that works. So it's self-sustaining if I am reading between the lines.
Yep.
Great. All right. I don't have any further questions. With that, I'll take a motion.
I'll move that the select board approve the intermunicipal agreement for public health shared services grant.
I'll second that.
Motion and a couple of seconds.
I gotta cut her off.
That's fine, you can do it.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And would we be able to grab a signature while we're here?
Yes.
There you go.
I brought my signing pen. Is it just me?
Just you.
There you are.
Now we're official.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, usually Laurie approves all my signatures first, but we're good. All right, vote on the fiscal '26 budget calendar, including the date of town meeting. It's already, we're just getting cold, we're already starting to think about the spring, so. Has everyone, we actually, was that attached to our? I must not have got the updated one, because I don't see it on mine here. I don't have it in my link. Okay. Hold, please, quick second. Apologize to all the people watching at home. As I'm trying to get this. There we go. They must have figured it out back there.
Yeah, kind of indicative of the fact that we were talking about power outages and stuff.
Right. Right.
The lights are back on.
September 23rd. Agenda. There you go. There's the link. Okay. All right.
Can you tell us?
Yes. I will run through these dates if folks would like. Looks like we've already started. The capital improvement plan instructions will be distributed September 20th. That would have been this past week. Plan request submitted by departments October 21st, as well as the budget policy statement will be adopted. Revenue fixed cost review committee meeting November 1st. Operating budget instructions November 4th. Tri-board meeting on December 16th, along with our recommended capital improvement plan and the final report of the revenue fixed costs committee. Operating budgets submitted by January 3rd, and we vote to adopt the capital improvement plan on January 6th. Everyone getting these dates down? Superintendent's budget to school committee, January 9th. And the school committee would begin their public hearing on the week after, on the 16th. And we'd open the warrant January 27th. Department.
Town meeting is the date we really.
Oh, well, you could have said that. When's town meeting? Jeez, okay, yeah, all right. That's gonna be sometime in May. May 13th, 2025. I don't know what date.
Can we also put the time? I always feel like we get close and everybody's like, well, we didn't actually say what time it was gonna be. Also, should we add that or not? Should we? Should we wait?
Is that
Should
the
we wait?
moderator's
We've done
decision?
that when we've done- I think we've done that.
When we go through the, okay, that's fine.
All right, can I ask a question? This will be my own little picadillo. The Community Preservation Committee report on March 10th. Is there a reason it has to be that early in March? Can we push that a little further back? No? Because I just know that they get really, really crunched from applications to review time, especially if it's a heavy year.
So they moved up the application deadline a week.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
We can
Oh,
amend
that's
that,
good.
I think, to give them more time to do that. But no, we have to have that done so that we can get all of the other work that goes along.
Okay, all right. Couldn't give them a week, right? That's as far as we can push it? Okay, all right.
Last year.
It's fought the good fight for CPC.
I tried.
It's noted.
Sorry, Bill, I
Hey,
tried.
they got a week.
Yeah, well, they get themselves a week on the other end. Okay. All right. So, town meeting, May 13th, 2025.
We have to vote on it, right? So I'll
We
move
do.
approval of the calendar, including the date of town meeting.
I have a motion.
Seconded.
I have a second. All right, all those in favor? Aye. We're 2 hours in. You folks, you folks are doing great. All right, we're hanging in there. We're down the home stretch here. All right, so item H, vote on memorandum of agreement between the town finance committee and the school department. Has everyone had a chance to review that? I think we talked about, I don't believe it has changed in any,
The original.
yeah, it's the same one that we discussed the last time this was up. I think my only comment, Lori, and I don't know if it's too late to do this, is I don't see FinCom as a signatory to this, even though they are a named party in the agreement.
Yeah, we told Christine that, she's just gonna add this signature.
So she can add
Yeah.
chair signature there?
Yeah.
Great, I would appreciate that.
It's an acknowledgement of their.
Yeah,
their
acknowledgement of
Time
their-
and effort.
their
They
role
put a
and-
lot of time of effort.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing I'll say is, I think when we were discussing this, we talked about the schools getting on ClearGov, but I know Melissa had mentioned that based on the work being done, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of that info got put in, like on the town side?
I
No.
know, I couldn't answer that. no.
Okay.
We can look into it though.
We still, I think that they're interested in doing that also. I don't.
I think it might just take a little more time to get that ready once
Yeah.
they've got everything else corralled
Mhm.
and everything's fully running on Munis the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So,
No, and Melissa said that because of
Yeah.
the work they've already done, some of that info has been
I think that could be true,
available,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
just that we've talked about it, and it's not something that went away in the discussion.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not. And every other board has signed off on this except for FinCom yet, but I know FinCom is in agreement, so. All right, I will take a motion.
I will move that the select board approve the memorandum of agreement between the town finance committee and school department.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, appointments.
No, we
Jane?
got
ARPA.
ARPA funding.
Oh, geez, all right, sorry, jumping ahead of myself. ARPA funding for veteran services. Has anyone seen the letter here from Melissa? $10,000? Okay.
For three.
If everyone's had a chance to review it, I'll take a motion.
I move that the select board approve the opera funding request from Veteran Services.
It's $10,000 for the completion of the Veterans Memorial Auditorium.
That's good.
3,000 is for that, and then 7 is for the emergency fund.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, I have a motion
I'll second.
in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now on to appointments. I don't know if Janice or Dave, if you'd like to.
I think several weeks ago, Dave and I were able to meet with a few people who wanted to volunteer their time for our community, so we're really excited about that, and there are many more interviews on the horizon and more spots to be filled. But in the meantime, we would like to bring to you the appointment of Zach Hachey to the Zoning Board of Appeals as an associate member. They actually need a couple more associate members, so if you're listening, you should apply. And Catherine Fitzgerald to the Festival Committee and Liz Costerian to the Festival Committee. So they are all enthusiastic and
Highly
ready to
qualified.
roll. Yeah, yes, highly qualified, ready to go. So.
Excellent. Since they have differing terms, I will take these, I guess we can take them as two motions, one for the zoning board and then one for the two festival committee candidates, if you guys are okay with that.
So I'll make the motion that the select board appoint Zachary Hatchie to the zoning board of appeals as an associate member through June 30th, 2027.
I have a motion.
Seconded.
I have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
And I will also recommend that the select board appoint Liz Costerian to the festival committee and Catherine Fitzgerald to the festival committee, both through June 30th, 2025.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We welcome them to public service. Our consent items. First up, we have a donation for the youth center in the amount of $21,000, from the youth center, sorry, in the amount of $21,590 back to the town. This is the scholarship donation. We would take these individually or take these, no, we take them one at a time?
Consent.
Okay,
Think you do
great.
them in a group.
Perfect, okay, great. We have a grant from Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, in the amount of $133,150. Donation from Patricia Quinney in memory of May Applin Judge in the amount of $100. And donation from Mr. and Mrs. Peter LaFawn to library in the amount of $500. I will take a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second with the Memorial Dick Valancourt note that we sent letters of thanks to those who made donations. Is it you?
Then he grabbed it.
Oh, sorry. Well, you can have it back. All those in favor? Aye. All right, that is approved, with our thanks.
Yes.
Okay, approval of minutes from our last two meetings. Has everyone had a chance to review? I will take a motion.
I'll move approval.
Approval of the minutes of August 12th and on September 16th.
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any select board updates? Nothing? Okay.
I
everyone-
will tell you that the North Andover Women's Club is holding a fashion show. And it is, oh, I gotta think a moment because I have two things that are, it's either the 4th or the 5th of October. And it includes a dinner. Just contact the Women's Club if you think you would like to attend. And that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just so people know, the North Andover Women's Club does, all they do is raise money and give it away, give it back to the town, all of it.
That's
The
terrific.
go bags, everything. So it's a fine organization. It's a very old organization as well. But so if you're looking for a night out for a fashion show and a dinner, the dinner will be at Salvatore's. So it's nearby. and it should be fun.
There are 2 more weeks to the farmer's market, so you still have time to come down.
You still have time
and
to
help
volunteer?
And shop and all of the above.
Only 2 weeks? Right in the middle of
2 weeks, Brian.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, I'll get there for the next one. Just a couple for me. We were fortunate enough to attend the Historical Society's event, which Dave did a wonderful job organizing. For the Lifetime Preservation Award recipient, Glenn Aspesley, this year, maybe the youngest recipient of the Lifetime Preservation Award.
Well, he might get a few.
He could earn another one, yeah, he could do it again.
He's a great guy. He does great
Wonderful
work.
guy, does great work, on behalf of the Friends North Andover Trail, so it was great. And for everyone who got a chance to attend the rainy Fall Festival on Saturday, it was, it was, I was there, people were there, the food vendors were terrific, so just the weather didn't cooperate, but.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that event, though.
I'm
so
sure
we
it's
appreciate
hard
the
work
Merchants
from-
Association
hard work
and
for everyone
Those
every
who
year.
continue to keep it going.
I'll respond to that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
As president of the North Andover Historical Society, I had the honor of emceeing the event, but I didn't do the bulk of the planning. It was great with Lifetime Preservation Award Committee at the Historical Society. It was wonderful to see our elected officials
Modest
and several select board members there. But speaking of the Historical Society, this Saturday there's Trails and Sales from the Essex Heritage is having his 2 events at the North Andover Commons from 10 to 12. Is a walking tour by the Historical Society of Old Center that is walking around to explain the different historical context of many of the Old Center and our town's founding locations. And the 1836 Meeting House is having periodic 15-minute visits, what do they call it? No, I'm sorry. But you can, open to the public, you can come by and they'll walk you through, tours is what is the word I was looking for there. You can come by really anytime between 10 and 1:30. So you can go to the the walking tour for Old Commons, and then stop by and take a look at the 1836 Meeting House. Exciting.
Sounds exciting.
That's what you get for mentioning the Historical Society.
Always mention it. It's good. Okay, town manager's report.
Okay, it's in your packet. Would you like me to run down really quick,
If
or?
there's something you think we want to call out by name, or by all
Okay,
means.
well,
At your discretion.
Well, to be brief, I would like to recognize Officer Cuevas for his heroic actions during the homicide that took place in August. He did an exceptional. They all did an exceptional job, but he has been named individually as one of the real heroes of that day. We're having lots of flu clinics, so keep on the lookout for that. Flu clinics age 19 every Wednesday, 9:30 to 11:30. September 4th to October 30th at the Senior Center. Again, just keep on the lookout for lots of different flu clinics. And as an aside, if I could, because I know she's watching, wish my mom a very happy 80th birthday coming up. My mom was my role model. She was a career woman in the 70s when that really kind of wasn't a thing. And so I have modeled my hard work ethic after her. So Mom, I love you, and we can't wait to celebrate.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday from all of us.
To our #1 fan. She
Yeah.
watches
I know she watches us.
And since you're too, and s-
Should have thanked.
and since you're too modest to mention it, congratulations on your election to Vice President of the MMA. So,
Thank you.
I don't know if I put an
It's
extra
gonna
M
be
in
a
there or
tough
not,
year
but.
being at a different location.
Thank you for your
And thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah. And happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah.
All right.
She's a lovely lady, your mom.
Thank you.
Our next meeting date is Monday, October 7th, 2024. So, 2 short weeks. with that,
Um,
before they turn all the lights out on us,
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, that electric thing is
Second.
already a problem.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all tonight.